I just really wanted to get out of the city. But it really came down to affordability. Like, what can I actually afford? What can I actually put a down payment on? And there were so few options. So the tiny house seemed like the most viable option. I definitely do not have any construction or building experience whatsoever. And for something as important as the home that I'm going to live in, I wanted to leave that to the professionals. So it was custom built. We kind of worked together through the design phase and taking into account, things that I like to do and how I live my life, and kind of designed it around those needs. But it was based on a model that they had existing. So I got to walk through that at their warehouse to kind of, see for myself what it would look like. I only found like 3 builders in Ontario at the time. So I just kind of went with the one that seemed like the most doable. In order to put down a deposit, I'm very privileged, I think, to have already had that in savings. So I was able to pay the deposit right away. After that, I needed to take out a loan. And it's definitely challenging to find financing for a tiny house because we're not eligible for a mortgage because it's not a traditional home. So I have a line of credit that I'm paying off right now. And if I'm able to pay off consistently the same amount that I'm paying now, it will be about 8 years that I'm able to fully pay off the cost of this house, which will be a great relief. Really, the reason why I chose a tiny home is because of the affordability. Buying a home was totally out of the realm of possibility for me. With the current state of the real estate market, it's very, very hard for people to get into it. Being a renter myself prior to living here, I didn't sell a house in order to obtain this one. So yeah, the financing is something that people should be aware of. If you're able to save up before you buy a tiny house, I definitely encourage people to do that. I know some people have gotten chattel loans, which you would typically take out for a boat or an RV or a vehicle of that variety. And I know some builders have financing options, or if you're buying a pre-build, that previous owner of the home might offer some financing options as well. So there are some options, but again, if you don't have a decent amount of savings to begin with, it can be very challenging. And another thing that I tell people a lot is that they should be looking for a parking space, maybe even before they find a builder. Because I signed the contract, started, going through the process of designing the home, and I had no idea what I was getting myself into in terms of finding a parking spot. I was putting postings on Kijiji, on Facebook Marketplace, joining a bunch of Facebook groups, basically telling everybody I knew, all of my friends and family, to spread the word for me. And I pursued a lot of different parking spots that fell through because the planning division didn't approve it, because the landowner changed their mind. So I really lucked out at the last minute. I think a month before the house was due to be delivered, I found this spot, which is a campground / trailer park. So there's a lot of, trailers here and other forms of mobile homes. I do wish I had explored and investigated park model trailer homes before I just dove right into tiny houses. There are a lot of trailers around here that are really nice. The house is 24 feet long by 10 feet wide, and the highest point of the ceiling is 11 feet tall. Definitely my number one priority was to have a good internet connection and having space to have a good ergonomic setup, because I type a lot, and making sure that I'm comfortable and I have a proper chair and I'm not like sitting cross-legged on the floor was definitely important for me. I have a really large computer monitor, which kind of doubles as my TV, so I don't need to have a separate living space from my office, so kind of combining those together worked really well. I love cooking, so I really wanted a decent-sized kitchen, a full-size stove, but things like a dishwasher or microwave were not important to me. I never had those in the apartment that I lived in before. And I also do yoga in my kitchen. That's kind of like the main floor space that I have open. So I kind of have to accommodate, adjust, depending on what pose that I'm doing. But yeah, it works out really well. So those are kind of the 3 focus areas. I definitely wanted to obtain a legal building permit. And there are certain things that you should take into account when you're building the house that will give you more options for where you want to park it. So living in Ontario, our secondary dwelling unit or accessory dwelling unit, which is just the legal terminology for a tiny home, has to be built to the Ontario Building Code. So there were a lot of compromises that I had to make with the design. The loft is a great example because the Ontario Building Code mandates that a living room has to have a ceiling height of 6 feet 11 inches. My loft is very, very small. It's 2 feet and 9 inches at the tallest point. And I wish that I could have sacrificed a little bit of headroom in this living room, which would have made a big difference. One thing that was important to me is that I wanted to live closer to my partner. So I, prior to this, was living in Toronto, and my partner's always lived north of Toronto in this area, in this county. He was kind of born and raised here. So because I was familiar with this community, I really knew that I wanted to park in this general area. But because I still operate a business and a lot of my clients are in Toronto, I didn't want to be too far away. And also, you know, because I live with type 1 diabetes, I want to be able to be close to hospitals, to pharmacies, to know that an ambulance can pick me up if I need it. Living, you know, too far away from those amenities was just not really doable for me. And I really did not have any desire to be entirely off-grid. The thought of losing power and my fridge not working, how am I going to keep my insulin cold? You know, like all of those things are things that I need to bear in mind. Yeah, it is a very small park here. Everyone kind of knows each other. Everybody helps each other out. And I'm always trying to be a good neighbor in the event that maybe one day I might need help. So, you know, just extending that hand where I can. The biggest change definitely for me was transportation. Living in the city, I always took public transit, I rode my bike, or I just walked everywhere. So I did not have a driver's license. So while the house was being built and I was looking for a parking spot, I was also taking lessons and learning how to get my license. So that was one big adjustment. The other one, on the positive side, is the peace and quiet out here. I was so used to cars honking and, you know, drunk people getting into arguments outside my window. So now I just hear the sounds of wildlife. The only light out here at night is the moon. There's no, you know, street lights. So it's really nice in that regard. Just being closer to nature was like really important to me. And I have never had the ability to garden before. It's something that is totally new to me. My garden is thriving and I'm already able to eat, you know, some of the things that I grow. I think there is a very common narrative that, as it pertains to the tiny living community, that this is a way for a lot of people to have more financial freedom, to save a lot more money, spending less money on your rent or your lease. And it was definitely a very different reality for me. Again, getting this built by a professional builder, I will tell you very transparently, this house cost me $106,000 Canadian. And I see so many videos of couples who built their own house for $30,000, $40,000. And I think I had this idea in my mind, like my budget initially was like $80,000 and I really did not want to exceed that. So there were a lot of compromises on the design of the home that just needed to happen. And I still went over budget. Then there are a lot of upfront costs. When the house was being put here, we needed to put down some gravel and, you know, patio stones and pressurized wood blocks to kind of set up the foundation. That was a few $100s. I have propane tanks now, so that was a lot of upfront cost as well. I initially had a satellite internet, and that was quite a few $100 down as well. So all of these costs just kept piling up. And now my, monthly cost of living, the propane is an added thing, insurance that I never had before, insurance on my car that I did not have before. So even though I'm spending less on my lease than I was on my rent, there are all these additional things. So to be honest, I'm working a lot more now than I used to. It was very, very financially stressful. And I really just want other people to understand, kind of leave yourself a buffer, whatever your budget is for the home. Just bear in mind that there will be additional costs down the road that you might not have been able to foresee at the beginning. So I've been working as a web developer for most of my career. That's what I went to college for. And at the tail end of 2019, I started my own business with my business partner. So I knew that I could work from anywhere as long as I had a good internet connection, as long as I have my laptop and electricity. It really opened up the realm of possibilities for me. So our business is called Tableau Creative. We do branding, digital marketing, website design, and I started my own YouTube channel called Casa Duro, kind of documenting my tiny house experience. I did a lot of research and kind of put it together, and also sharing the things that started happening over time, like using my incinerating toilet, which I ended up replacing with just a regular septic toilet, and talking about a combo washer dryer unit, like different appliances, and just, sharing what I learned along the way. And again, kind of talking about the reality of things, and shedding a light on the hardships and the day-to-day realities. So that was really important for me. I can't imagine ever living in the city again. I love living out here. There are so many things to do out here that are totally free. You can just, go for a hike or go for a kayak or something like that. So that's been really wonderful. I think I imagined when I moved into here to feel this immediate, just like exhilaration, because I went through so much stress and turmoil to get here, but it didn't really feel that way. Definitely at first it was very surreal, and there were still a lot of growing pains, and there were a lot of things that I was still building and finessing. So it's more and more over time, I find myself more enamored by the experience of living here.
Subscribe to Exploring Alternatives, and please share this video if you liked it. You can also follow Stacie on YouTube at Casa Duro. Thanks for watching.